MAPPA Vice President addresses issues within the anime industry. As you can see, the article was written today, and it's directly sourced from Real Sound here, aka a Japanese news source completely written in Japanese. So let's dive headfirst into this, because obviously this article is very important because, let's face the facts, Studio MAPPA has been the poster child for bad work ethics to animator overwork, toxic workplace, sweatshop-like environment, director and animators crashing out live on social media. We have all seen it, and I think that when this really became in the public eye and a lot of people started becoming more aware of this situation was definitely when Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 was airing. There's just a lot more conversation around the series because of how much it blew up, and I think a lot more people became aware just how much work it is to actually be an animator, and how sometimes it's a very unthankful job. You're not thanked enough, and it's a job to where it sometimes doesn't even feel worth it. The pay is very low, all those different type of things. Now, before I really start to read this article, there is something I need to say, because if I don't, there's people that get their underwear in a knot if I don't mention it, so I'm just going to mention it just to cover my bases here. But obviously, yes, I am talking a lot of negativity about Studio MAPPA, but it isn't just a Studio MAPPA problem. The entirety of the anime industry is pretty much rotten. There's some select few individuals, like KyoAni, for instance, that, has kind of shifted away from the toxic work environment, but for the more or less, the entirety of the anime industry is pretty toxic, and it just has bad work ethic. You have animators overworking. This is an issue that just stems in the entire industry. It's not just a Studio MAPPA problem, it's just an anime industry problem. However, MAPPA obviously has done a lot of things that have brought them into the public eye with negative attention, and there is a reason why they're talked about so often, because they have done a lot of bad things. And so, I'm not going to be someone that's going to sit back and not address this stuff just because it happens everywhere in the anime industry. It is important to talk about this to spread awareness and for more people to become aware of what actually is going on with some of their favorite things, for instance, anime, manga, etc. So, now that that's said, let's get right into this, because obviously the vice president of Studio MAPPA addresses issues within the anime industry, and I am curious to see what he has to say, if he brings any nuance or any information that could obviously bring to the table things that could be corrected and to change the overall, industry for the better. Let's see what they have to say. So, Real Sound released a recent interview with MAPPA Vice President and animation producer Hiroya Hasegawa, whose credits include all seasons of TV series like Vinland Saga, Oblivion Battery, and The Ancient Magus Bride. When asked about the anime production issues and what's necessary to overcome them, Hasegawa replied, "There are many issues to be addressed, not just at MAPPA, obviously addressing the entirety of the anime industry as a whole, but one is that, unlike when we first joined, the number of people who casually come in contact with animation has increased over the past few years, and when they get involved in anime production, they often find that the world is different from what they have imagined." So this one is a very interesting comment. I feel like this more or less acknowledgement of the popularity of anime and manga since 2020, with the boon of, anime and manga becoming a lot more mainstream. I think this is basically what is being said here, is that thanks to the overall demand of anime reaching new heights that's never been seen before, a lot more people are coming in contact with anime and animation and wanting to get involved with it. But when they do get involved with it, it's very different than what they expected, probably because of maybe it's not a rose garden, it's not sunshine and rainbows. To be an animator requires you to have long, thankful work hours to where you might even pass at your desk with grueling deadlines and so many other issues behind the scenes. That's not even, talking about maybe your coworkers that could cause some friction. So this is more or less what I think this comment is saying, is that people have built up this expectation that being an animator might be a rose garden, but in reality, it's a very thorny path, very difficult, and not that good whatsoever. Anyways, continuing to read. However, it is no use actively appealing that the animation is hard work. Now, this right here, I think, is more or less confirming what I just said. Hasegawa continued, and I am thinking about how to fill this gap. In terms of working styles, I have the impression that there are more people in the production field who want to separate their work and private lives and strike a balance between the two than before. I think it is important for a company to take a stance of not allowing individuals to work in a way that does not allow them to maintain this balance. Now, this statement is very interesting. More or less what is being said here in very simplified terms is that people now becoming an animator, they don't want to work, let's say, 20 hours a day, pass out at their desk, and then they wake up and they start working again. And they work literally, they live at the office. They live just doing animation and drawing and all that, and that's all they do. They want to be able to actually have a personal life. They want to be able to go home, spend time with their kids, their wife, or whatever they want to do in their personal life, and they want to be able to have time for themselves, which is very fair. Nobody wants to work 18 plus hours or whatever and not have any time for themselves. It would drive you insane. It would grind you down to where you're basically nothing anymore. You'd become a husk of a person. It's just not good overall. However, this overall issue seems to be something relatively new. That is, a lot of these, animation studios are now starting to deal with, because in the past, it seemed more or less people were completely fine with just working to the point of basically passing out at your desk, but it seems like the newer generation and new people coming in to work on anime more or less want to have a balance between work and personal life, and obviously these studios, these companies, they need to shift. If they don't shift, it's going to cause it to where not a lot of people want to work with them, which is why you have, Hasegawa even mentioning this, that a company needs to basically strike a balance. I feel like more or less what is being said here is if the common consensus or the public wasn't actively wanting a balance, the company would never even think about this. The company wouldn't even try to do this. They would be willing to allow the workers to basically sleep at the work for the rest of their days. That's more or less what this looks like. Now, I could be reading too deep into this or whatever, and obviously this is translated from this Japanese article, but that's the impression I get. More or less, it seems like, if they were allowed to overwork their employees, if the employees would allow themselves to be exploited, they would do so, which, to be fair, if the employees would allow it, why wouldn't a company do it? Anyways, let's keep on reading. Hasegawa also says MAPPA is considering a way of education that allows mentors to transfer their skills equally to multiple people. The lack of proper long-term mentorship at a workplace has long been cited as a major factor in suggested declines in animator abilities within the industry. Short crunching schedules means there isn't time to pass on skills and compensate for these short schedules. Large numbers of freelancers are used, many of whom don't learn from implementing the corrections, aka retakes, advised by animation directors due to further scheduling conflicts. So this is a word salad, so let's rip this apart and let's explain what's going on here. So let's talk about the lack of proper long-term mentorship at the workplace has long been cited as a major factor in suggested declines in animator abilities. The reason why this is a thing is because there is an animator shortage. Not a lot of people might be aware of this, maybe you are, but there is an animator shortage, which is why there has been a rising demand for freelancers. I mean, hell, this article even mentions a large number of freelancers are used on projects now. A lot of people within Japan and these different companies don't really want to work with these companies because the hours are not good. They think that it's going to be a lot better than they realize, and when they get into it, they're just not appreciated. And you accompany this with like an aging population with Japan, there's a lot of issues that they have to tackle. But the point of the matter is that they can't keep people on their staff long enough to be able to mentor them, to be able to pass down skills, and to learn certain techniques and stuff that normally would have done maybe 20 or so years ago. So because of that, you have a lack of long-term mentorship where people aren't learning, and they move on to the next project, to the next project, and they don't have time to really analyze and better their overall self as an animator, because obviously they're just continuously in the trenches working, and then they'll dive out and go to a completely different studio that has a completely different style and way things are done, and it just continues to repeat. This is the reason why the freelancers were mentioned, which let's get into that. So basically, large number of freelancers being used. The reason why this is being done, and I'm going to simplify this a lot, okay? But, production, demands and deadlines and everything is getting increasingly more strict as time goes on, and that's why a large number of freelancers are brought in to be able to, finish a project in time, enough time to be able to get it out when it's actually designated to come out. Basically, think of how a game is. Like, for instance, when a game's date is set to come out, let's say, like, in March or whatever, then obviously it needs to come out. If they don't, it's going to cost the company a lot of money, it's going to be a lot of issues, big headaches, so they'll try to get as many people on board to be able to finish it before it comes out. And so in this case, that's what happens. A lot of freelancers are being brought in, not just to make up for the animator shortage, but also because production demands are just so high that they have to bring them in regardless because they need to get that done before they could get to the next project. So basically, these freelancers that are brought in, they're not staff that's going to stick around for a long period of time. They're going to be there for maybe an episode or two, maybe just that anime season, and then they're going to move on to a next project and never work with that company ever again to ever learn from the staff or anything. So you can see the fundamental issues that because of the large amount of freelancers and stuff, there is a lack of mentorship, of people being able to learn, and long-term investment within animators that stick at a company. So continuing to read, these corrections are an important part of development, aka they're talking about retakes here, important part of development. Without them, animators move on to the next work with a major title under their CV despite errors and not understanding how they could have improved. So it's literally what I just talked about. Spreading the problem further in later productions. Animation director Terumi, Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable, and Penguin Drum warned that these retakes would cause effects like anime budgets intended for 3 years growing to 5, aka, pushing the problem, making it a lot worse than it already is. But the budget, and this is a quote from them, but the budget will be used up on works, and I think there will be an increase in bankruptcies. How many animators will be able to survive at that time? The ones who are careless will be the ones who are laid off. Let's all study, she said in a post from 2024, which is directly this post. As you can see, in the future, each company's capacity will be completely capped. It is expected that production will be reduced. Work scheduled for 3 years from now will be completed in 5, but the budget will be used up on other works, and I think there will be an increase in bankruptcies. How many animators will be able to survive at that time? The one who are careless will be the ones who laid off. Let's all study. So I think more or less what is being said here is that, if the companies don't turn around and they don't manage their production costs, they don't try to have people properly on staff, it's going to cause bankruptcies. But on top of that, it seems like this comment more or less is being said, these animators that you're going to be getting laid off, etc., it's more or less their fault. That's what it seems like is being said here, is that, oh yeah, it's your fault, you got with a company and all that, isn't able to manage their time and all that. Oh, too bad, it's your fault. That's what it seems like here. It kind of feels a little bit jaded the way this is said here, so I don't know how to feel about that. Maybe I'm reading a little bit too deep into this one as well, but this kind of feels really negative towards animators, saying, aha, you deserve to be laid off because you were careless, when it's like you're overworking yourself in the trenches. It's just, doesn't sound like a good comment. Anyways, MAPPA's past production troubles have led to it often being at the center of anime industry criticism. Talked about that. These particularly intensified during the production of JJK Season 2, spawning fan criticism for unfinished episodes and even its freelancers rallying against the company while the series aired. Talked about that when that happened. Hasegawa explores other topics in the interview, such as the pros and cons of original series versus adaptations, the selection of Konosuke and Makoto as Rama and one-half director, and Oblivion Battery director, respectively, and how Vinland Saga director Shuhei pitched the series to MAPPA, which it ultimately took on with a largely same staff, which studio didn't have the capacity for it, and Yabuta's team had already begun work on Season 2. Multiple WIT Studio titles were handed over around that period, such as Attack on Titan to MAPPA, and The Ancient Magus Bride to Studio Kafka. MAPPA also touched on various business streams and advantage it has over many other studios. This includes merchandising, event planning, distribution, and advertising, which provide many opportunities in the company. If you have something you want to create and persuasion enough to attract people, you can aim for production desk or produce roles even if you're new to the company, Hasegawa said. So, what did we learn from this article? Well, if there's one takeaway from it, it seems like MAPPA is aware of the issues of the balance between work life and personal life. They're aware of the freelancer issues, that a lot of freelancers are being brought in to be able to maintain a deadline and production schedule, even though that shouldn't be a thing. It's because they're making too much at once. They need to slow down. It's very clear that they are aware of issues, but from the way Hasegawa kind of comments on this, unless there's something missing out from this actual original article, more or less, it seems like they're aware of the issues, but they're not really doing too much about it. They're more or less just saying, yeah, we acknowledge it, but we choose not to do anything. Now, I could be wrong here, but that's kind of what it looks like. Which is not a good look. It's not, but, I mean, they did say they're trying to mentor people and stuff. They're trying to do stuff like that, so hopefully that pans through and they do try that. But I do think that overall, this more or less is a article that, it says, yeah, we're aware, but we're not doing anything right now. So, yeah. I just want to bring this up. It's very interesting, to get some behind-the-scenes info for the vice president of MAPPA, see what they have to say. But we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. May all of you have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. Be safe, stay healthy, subscribe if you liked the video, leave a like on the video if you liked the video, and with that, Chibi out.